Hey everybody, welcome back live at Drew's house. Afternoon drive here, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Maybe you're driving around, listening here, and coming back at this point probably. I don't know, maybe your night's just starting. I hope you're having a great day with the family and a great weekend here all the way through. Hopefully you get some time off to enjoy with the family. And thanks for all your support here. It's a good time to say that, Thanksgiving, with our little show. Thank you to Maeve Power. I'll say that at the top of the show again as well. We appreciate all her work. She's been doing this all year here for us, so she has to deal with me, which is always not the easiest thing in the world. Our Thanksgiving guest here, the Mayor of Newburyport, Sean Reardon, in the house. How are you, Mayor?
Hey, Drew. How you doing?
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. It's great to be back.
It is a great time of year, isn't it?
I love it. I'm not a big Thanksgiving meal guy, but I just love this time of year. And again, we've got a lot going on, so a couple of days off doesn't hurt anybody either. So,
what's your problem with turkey?
I don't have a problem with turkey. It's just I think the older I get, I just don't get as excited about it. But I just love, I love the football. I love the night before. I love family and friends getting together. And
yeah.
I don't know. It's just great.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, that's my thing, too. It's getting together with that. It's a nice, not an excuse, but it's a nice time. Everybody's in a good mood. Usually it's a good time to be with family and all that. And a lot of friends are in town, too. I used to see more of the friends when I was younger because it seems like we all have different lives now, I guess.
Sure, when you're in your 20s and you get through college, and that's the biggest thing. Like, everyone comes home for Thanksgiving, right? When you get older, everyone's having Thanksgiving in different places. So it's not quite that, but I still love that part of it.
This is a busy weekend too. I know you probably you got young kids too. Obviously, especially that age, like of the 20s and mid 20s and all that too. It's probably a good time to mention. This weekend there is a lot of people around, a lot of partying. Everybody be safe out there too.
Absolutely.
I know, it's always a good thing to say. Speaking of young people. Your daughter the other day saw a lovely picture. You guys wrap up a sports season. Is that right?
No, we had a busy fall. My oldest Sadie is a junior, so she was on the varsity volleyball team. They had a good year and they had one game in the tournament and then lost a tough game to Ashland. And then my daughter Ruby, who was a freshman at NHS, made the varsity soccer team. They had a great year too. I think they were like 13-4-3.
Yeah.
And they had their banquet last night, so that was fun, kind of closing out the year. But just a great experience, and I was really proud of her for making it as a freshman, and it was fun watching both of them this year. So
athletics running the family, I see.
A little bit, yeah. I know we have a little bit of athletic history, but some of them are much more athletic than I was. So, I have a son Oliver too, 7th grade. He played tackle football for the first time, and he had his banquet last night as well. So busy fall.
Gotcha. What's that? Do you have to speak at the banquets when you're there?
I don't. No. I kind of just like blend in and be a dad.
Be dad for the night.
It's nice.
That is lovely. Very good. Very good. What's the when you look back on and sometimes we wrap up the year with you, we begin New Year's, but it's probably a good time to look back. What's the thing that you really are proud that you guys got done here in Newburyport over the last year?
Well, this year's been a crazy year. But I think finishing that Marking Landing Park right before the summer is, that's something I'll be proud of my whole life. It's just, those are big efforts. They're expensive projects. They're hard to manage. Being a coastal town, you're dealing with all the climate resiliency and those types of aspects to it. So the fact that we were able to, stay on time, stay on budget, and then, get that open and to see the thousands of people that park brought to the city this year.
Yeah.
I was stopped all summer, daily, and just saying how much they appreciated it, how much they loved it, and I just think it's such a great addition to, and it really looks like it's always been there out there on our waterfront.
Yeah, no doubt. The what would you say the thing looking ahead for the year is I know you have a lot on your plate as always, but is there something that's is really glaring? We want to tackle this.
Well, it's funny. This the fall has just been so busy. I think summer, we finished some really big projects. Fire station just got finished out in the West End. We finished that Market Landing Park. We had a big bulkhead project too that protects our waterfront that we finished, so it was nice checking those things off as far as getting finished, but we've got a lot of big things coming up. I think this year we'll still be tackling a lot of housing issues in the city. I'm trying to get a partly affordable housing project done at an old school, the Brown School in the South End, so that process just kind of started. I'll be coming to City Council with that. I've got a rec center that I'm trying to build right across from the middle school on Low Street. That's been my number one priority since I took office, so we should be able to go out to bid for that process in December. And then it's going to be about coming up with a compromise and building some consensus with the city council on approving moving forward with that. And that will be like renovating an old National Guard building, but then also having a gym added onto it, which I think would be great for the city and for everyone of all ages, not just our kids here in Newburyport. And what else? Those are the big things. I mean, again, the housing piece is, I think, really timely. We had a big housing forum about a couple months ago now where we kind of talked about housing in general. There's a big push from the state. Everyone knows there's a housing crisis going on. I hear, Governor Healing and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll speak many times about we're over 200,000 units short here in Massachusetts, and the 20s and 30-year-olds are leaving Massachusetts at an alarming rate because they can't afford to live here. So in Newburyport, again, we're pretty built out, so how do we do our part? So housing has just become a really big conversation. So how do we build affordable housing, but then also how do we just get those needed rentals for people that would love to stay in Newburyport and who might not be ready for home ownership, and how do we get those projects going too?
You mentioned Governor Healy there. She has her hands full, though I know she's made her stance very clear, but she's dealing with that whole teacher situation on the North Shore. We're near. I'm from Danvers, but it's Beverly and Marblehead left. Gloucester, of course.
Gloucester, just yep.
Yeah, I mean, you've been through some of these in some way before, right? Teacher strikes, and they are not good for anybody.
No, they're not good for anybody, and we've seen them really just pick up the last few years. I mean, first and foremost, people should know that striking is illegal.
Yeah, so I mean, they're serious fines.
I think serious fines, and I think anytime you're keeping kids out of school, I mean, we saw that in the pandemic. How detrimental that can be. Yeah. So, but I get it. I think people, teachers need to, use all the levers they can to kind of to negotiate and kind of get what they're looking for in teacher contracts. We just started our teacher contract negotiation here in Newburyport, and we did it a lot earlier this year. I mean, ours isn't up until June, but we started earlier just because we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time.
Is that because there is so much? That because of the disconnect? There's so much to work through, and there usually is a little bit of I don't want to say a battle, but
I mean, they can be tough. So when I first started on the school committee, I was on the contract negotiation team. So that was really eye-opening. I had never done anything like that before, and this was probably 5 or 7 years ago now. So that was a good, I would say, learning experience. And then I wasn't on the previous one, and how we do it, just so people at home know, I guess. The teacher union side has their part of the team that they bring to the table to negotiate, and then the city has a side, which usually is the superintendent kind of runs that show. There's a couple school committee members on it, and then there's some other city staff, and then we usually have our school attorney on there, and the MBTA will have a representative and an attorney there for the teachers as well. We actually do something really cool. It's called interest-based bargaining. So it's kind of a framework that we operate in, and we're the only district left that is using this framework to do it. And it's kind of nice. It kind of throws everything out there front and center at the beginning, so there's no really hard negotiations or no surprises. Everyone knows what we're dealing with.
You're not worlds apart.
And we try to get there. If teacher leadership is something that we want to work on, it's up there. And then the finances piece is always the biggest one, but those can be worked out. And I really think we've had 2 good contracts, so I don't foresee us having a huge contentious process this time around, but it is great that we're starting early, and like I said, we're really lucky to have the staff that we have here at Newburyport, and I do think we've done a good job taking care of them along the way. But I think what we've seen in Salem got their contract done before Gloucester, Marblehead, and Beverly got theirs done, so that kind of set the stage for the North Shore, and I think I do think the MBTA has been really strategic with these strikes across the state. You've seen the last couple of years. Newton was a big one, Andover was a big one, Haverhill, Melrose as well. So. And Woburn, I believe, also went through it. So this is very topical right now, and it's just.
Well, y'all watch it too, right? I mean, I know you.
Oh my goodness, and we all support each other. I mean, again, I've become close with the other mayors that I get to work with, and they tear communities apart, and that's why I think it's so important to have some of those, to operate in a framework like interest-based bargaining, kind of takes some of the emotion out of it a little bit, because you are getting it all out there front and center, but. It's a difficult thing to watch a community go to, because I know those things you don't get over those easily as well. So
there's hard feelings afterwards, even when things get done.
And kids aren't in school. So on top of all that, you've got parents scrambling. Again, this is the 3rd week or 4th week for Beverly and Marblehead. And Marblehead's a town, so I don't know them as well, but their town manager is Thatcher Keyser, who was the former mayor of Amesbury. So I know him a little bit, and then I know Mayor Cahill and Beverly, and I think Revere is still kind of hanging out there. They could possibly strike. So no, it's tough, and just the economic climate we live in, wages are important. Things are more expensive. So how do you become fair and equitable, but also put together school budgets that are sustainable and not going to bankrupt, cities and towns? And I think that's what we're finding collectively in Massachusetts, is that the current model of how schools are being funded, whether you talk about state aid or whatnot, is just not sustainable moving forward. So how can we work with the state to get to a point where it gives cities and towns some help? I mean, special education costs are through the roof, transportation costs are through the roof. Those are the really things that we need some help on.
A state issue and national level, right? I mean, these things are going on all over the country, these kind of debates. And it is, I think anybody, you understand when there's not a certain amount of money in the budget, you can only do so much. But then you also don't want teachers paying out of their pockets and, not being able to afford their own place. And, you said, you get that part too. I mean, it feels like something you almost have to get creative with and try to attack it as a bigger issue. But
yeah, it's tough for me coming from the school committee side, because I was a former teacher and my parents were teachers, and then running for mayor. Now I've got the whole whole shebang. And we actually had put out a pretty good graph after the budget last year, but like 58 cents of every dollar we spent in the city goes to our schools. Yeah. So it's a pretty small piece of the pie for me to take the rest of it and keep our community thriving. So I mean, I think people need to know that, and then again, the way contracts work out and increases, and again, we're mostly people too, so that's why the contracts are so important. Yeah. But I think the contracts are important too, to let people know, like, hey, look, if this is where we end up on the contract, this means we're only going to have less money to do some of the services that we expect here in the city too. So it's just trying to keep that all front and center for people. No doubt.
By the time people are heading home from their Thanksgiving trip, which is around now, the football game is in the books. So we didn't know at the time of recording this with you who won the football game. So hopefully Newburyport did.
Fingers crossed. It's at home this year, so I feel good about it.
It's an exciting thing, the whole football game, isn't it? Like, it's do you go every year?
Every year, and it's always been just such a big deal. So like, I find it funny when I run into people who don't go.
Right.
But I also grew up here, so like my parents, it was a big deal. Like, we go to Amesbury for the games, we come to Newburyport for the games, and it's just a fun. The park lunch opens early on it. If you want to go hit the park lunch before you go to the games, I mean, all those like little things that people do in the city.
Plenty of people did that today.
But it's fun, and like I said, again, I think. I think it's going to be a good game this year too. I think last year Amesbury was on its way to the Super Bowl and had to play this tough home game against Newburyport. Newburyport came in fired up and won pretty convincingly. So this year, I would say they're both probably a little bit down, but it should make for a really good football game.
Talk about what you remember from that rivalry, because I remember the first time I took it in. It was the year that they built the field or dedicated it to James Staley.
And that game was incredible.
Yeah, the overtime. Yeah, it was
that Quinn Scott, I think it was his name, was the running back for Newburyport, and they took it to overtime and won. But like.
We've been doing that show that long. I remember him being in here. Actually,
he was a great athlete. He ended up leaving Newburyport and going to Governor Academy and had a really good career too. Just 101st meeting, right? So that's just one of the great things about living in this area.
There's rivalries in the end zone. The old alumni are down there. Trash talking. And
Gridiron Club will be set up down there, and there's a lot of good alumni that give a lot back to the football program. The coach. Coach Smolsky was a Newburyporter, so grew up with it and was part of it. So all those great histories and traditions, folded into a 101-year rivalry between your neighbors, really.
It's a cool thing.
It's pretty neat. It's awesome.
Not every high school, not every community has that sort of rivalry. A lot of them do around here, actually. There's some great ones, but that's a unique one.
Yeah, earlier this week, the Rotary clubs of Amesbury and Newburyport do a football luncheon. This is a thing they do every year, too. So if, this year we were in Newburyport at the Elks Club, but it's pretty much the seniors from both team, and then like a lot of the community come together, and a lot of school and city personnel, and it's a lot of fun. They make it fun and talk about the tradition and everything a lot. So it's just been great. That's been going on for a long time.
Have you ever had to give? I see Newburyport's very good about giving bringing somebody in to give the speech or the pre-week speech.
Yeah, they bring a lot of like older football players. I've never been asked to go in to do that. Yeah. I go to Color Day. So Color Day is the big pep rally that happens at Amesbury and Newburyport. Yep. On Wednesday, and so I go every year, and I do get called up, and I get them all riled up.
There you go.
Which is funny because I have kids there now, so they think they're horrified. But
I was going to say, do they love it or hate it?
I think they both a little bit. Yeah,
they're probably used to it at this point.
Yeah, right? I'm a pretty excitable guy, anyways. So the fact that they get to see me do that on stage, and it's pretty cool.
If you're not getting some eye rolls, then you're probably doing something wrong with them, right? right. What is there actually a legit question? Is there some trickiness to being the mayor of a city where you have kids in school.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing's tricky, right? I mean, I think that's been,
That might be my favorite answer the whole time.
It is. It's just because, I mean, when you run for mayor, I think you always think you know what you're getting into, but I mean, it's it's not a job like you're typically not a mayor someplace else, and then like, oh, I'm gonna be a mayor in Newburyport now.
Yeah.
That doesn't usually work like that. So a lot of it you've got to kind of figure out. But that family piece and that balance piece is something that I struggle with every week, right?
Yeah.
And some weeks are busier than others, and I've been pretty good. I don't really I prioritize it, so I don't miss things. Like I was able to see all my kids' games this fall and stuff, but it's just busy and tricky, and I think it's tricky for them too because they're labeled as like the mayor's kids, and they don't talk about it as much, but I do catch it every once in a while that something will come their way that it wouldn't if I wasn't in this role. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's tough. But like I said, it's such I'm just finishing my third year, so it's been a positive experience. I mean, I'll have to run next year, and we've already talked about that as a family. That I
was going to say
they want us to do that.
All of this has to be full-fledged family decisions, right?
Yeah. Even more so now probably than it was originally, because I don't think we really all knew what we were getting into before, and now it's like, we gotta weigh everything when you do that. But like I said, I'm really lucky. I've got a great job, and growing up here, I get to try to make my hometown better each and every day, and I think my kids get that too. So
sure, I never really see you too negative about stuff, except maybe if there's a really big schooling project that came around. Was that like 6 months ago?
Oh, yeah.
Let's not even. Nope, we don't even want to talk about it on Thanksgiving. But I would. But you're a pretty optimistic guy. I do wonder though. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's days where you're just like, it doesn't work this way. You can, and you're just ready to lose your mind.
Yeah.
Have there been times where you've thought about, maybe that's a good run for mayor and move on to the next thing? Are you feeling pretty good about this for at least one more term?
Yeah, no, I still feel good about it. I mean, I always envisioned that it'd be at least 2 terms.
Yeah.
So, I'm not thinking about doing something else, but I absolutely have days where behind closed doors, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Or why can't I get this done? Or how do I get these people to come together and agree on this? So I mean, it's a tough job, and then you don't even like the things that we're trying to get done are great, like the parks and the streets and sidewalks. All those things that we get to do are good. I'm building 3 new tennis courts down at the middle school, and we just finished a basketball court at another park. So I love getting to do all those stuff and seeing things get done. But then there's the day-to-day of just like dealing with residents or trying to help residents or dealing with employees' issues. So I mean, it's an all-consuming job.
Where it's impossible to make everybody happy.
That honestly, walking in the first day, I knew that was never going to be on the table. Was where I make everybody happy. And so you just kind of like, you try to make, try to get all the information, talk to all the smart people, get all the right information, and then when you do make a decision, just make sure the public knows the reasons why, and just try to communicate that in a clear way. And I do think that's something I've tried to bring to the role, is just a more advanced level, I guess, of communication with the public on a variety of issues. So people should always not question where I'm coming from, and then just keep people informed, because I mean, I think we live in a very politically astute community, I guess. I mean, there is a small group that is paying very close attention, but then there's a lot of people that are just doing their thing, and I'm trying to reach those people too, even if it's just a little bit, just so they kind of have an idea of what we're doing and where we're going, and hopefully they can become engaged that way.
Sometimes I think about the mayoral position. I remember when I was a young writer in Boston for WBZ, Mayor Menino used to come in and do like a once every couple weeks, early in the morning sort of thing. And I remember he singled me out as the young person in the newsroom at the time. And he said, Drew, something was going on with curfews, like bars being open later, a push to do this later, keep places open later. He goes, what time do you stay out at night on a normal day? I'm like, well, I'm working at 4 a.m, Mayor, not too late right now these days. He goes, yeah, okay, my point is nothing good happens after 11 p.m. And that was a huge thing of his. Like he always fought to keep stuff, shut down the city a little bit earlier than New York City or whatever.
Right.
I just remember him thinking, he walks into this room, he's having this very heated conversation, and he was getting all sorts of heat for it at the time. Like this mayor, people loved him. He kept winning and winning and winning. But this was one that was really, I felt like he was getting some pushback on, because people thought there should be some changes.
Right.
And I remember him just ended it by going, this is how I feel, this is the way it is, and if people don't like it, this is me. And all I can be is me. And I remember that, and I was like, I think people can live with that. And I think that's why people like him. Like, he stood his ground, and may he rest in peace. But he just stood his ground on things, and he just people ask me, how does this guy who doesn't really have a great speaking voice or your comment? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can say that. Right? I think it was an affectionate term.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how did this guy keep winning? And that's what it was. He was just always true to himself, whether you disagreed or not.
Authentic, and just like let people know where he stood. I mean, I think that's half the battle. It's just it's all about communication and getting your message out there. And then if people you're right, people aren't going to like it, or people are going to like it, but at least they know where you stand. And you try to go from there and get some things done. Was
there one person like that, whether it be a mayor or elected official, that you kind of looked up to and said, you know what, if I ever win mayor of Newburyport, I want to implement that?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I always wanted to be mayor, even as a little kid. So, like, as a very little kid, Dick Sullivan was the mayor at the time, and I lived like 2 doors down from him. So, I mean, as a kid, he was just larger than life to me. I had no idea at the time what kind of mayor he was, but I just knew he was the mayor, and I thought he was awesome. Since then, I think I've taken a little bit from every mayor that I've seen. But I also think I bring my own little spin to it too. I mean, I just think. I worked with schools a long time, so I would say I probably got more out of watching superintendents and some of the those are big jobs too, and just you're operating in a political environment, you're dealing with parents in this case, and then you're dealing with kids who are all across the board as far as their ability levels. So I probably took a lot of that working with superintendents over the years, of just as far as leadership, and I never got to work with mayors intimately like that except on the school committee. So I feel like I've grown a lot a bit. I've been saying this a lot lately because I'm in the process of hiring a new chief of staff. My chief of staff, Andrew Levine, who was there with me from day one, got a town administrator job out in Western Mass, and I was happy for him. These jobs are sometimes stepping stones for bigger jobs, so I was happy for him. But I'm in the process of hiring the next person, and I was like, wow, I am such a different person than I was when I hired Andrew. In January 2022. Almost 3 years later now. I'm a completely different mayor. So like finding that person to kind of take you the next step in term 2 and fitting the skill set of like the team that you've put together is kind of neat.
Well, you look even better than when you were first elected. So
I'm heavier, I can tell you that. I don't know what.
I never let a Thanksgiving show without saying, James Stalin, who we lost, he used to always do this show and used to get excited about football games and all that stuff and talk football on Thanksgiving. We lost him a few years ago now. I know. Who do you think of when it comes to the people that have passed away on Thanksgiving?
Oh, Coach Stalin.
He's got to be one.
And you talk about someone I think about with like leadership. I mean, to watch him over the years, and he was never my coach. He was my AD, but I mean, I've been a part of the Wall of Fame and different athletic organizations in Newburyport growing up. My dad was a long-time, player and coach in the city, so I've got to see coaches my whole life. So I probably should have said that. I mean, I've had some great coaches, but to watch Coach Stalin, he was just phenomenal. I'm sure he was phenomenal when he came in here, but like he was the guy that did all the eulogies at all the funerals for his players because he could go up there, no notes, and with the detail that he could talk about it, and he always just hit it out of the park and just was authentic and heartfelt and. He was just, one of the absolute legends, and I was kind of a part of that group that got that stadium redone, and then when his former players came together and wanted to name it after him, that was a no-brainer. He had such an impact on generations here in Newburyport, and that's the generation that's still kind of hanging on here right now too. Those 50s and 60s Newburyporters who just love the city so much, and he brought a lot of that pride, and I do think the people that we have in place right now, especially Coach Spolsky, by bringing the old players back for pep talks and things like that before big games, a lot of that tradition. That's all been instilled. It started with Salen, and it trickled down to all his players who now have their kids and grandkids like going through Newburyport. So
I said before I even knew him, before he even did this show, I sat with him during that Thanksgiving game, and he was looking out over that field, beautiful, obviously a huge crowd, and he was proud and like emotional about it. He was like this is quite a thing.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It was great.
We miss him. We used to do this show every single year. I'd call him. He goes, "Yep, Thanksgiving show. I'll see you there."
he was so cool because at the time, look at the other surrounding communities, you had Coach Flaherty at Pentucket, and then you had Coach Welch in Ipswich. Yeah. And all of those guys went for the Newburyport job at the same time. They all just turned 90 a couple years ago, right around
Yeah,
couple
yeah.
years ago. And they all went on to other programs and had incredible,
Sure.
they're all legends at their schools. But collectively, at one point, all those guys had Newburyport ties to
Wow,
it. So, yeah.
crazy.
And they all were friends and would hang out together. So it's pretty neat.
All right, well, I'll let you get back to your friends and your family and all that stuff you do here at Sean Reardon, the mayor of Newburyport. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You too, Drew.
Don't eat too much turkey. I know you're there for the family anyway. You don't care about
That's
the
right.
food. You'll have a little turkey.
It's all about people.
Very good. Thank you to Maeve Power. Again, our small but mighty team here in Newburyport. We love you and a great time to say thank you to you guys as well. Everybody have a great rest of the Thanksgiving day. Have a great weekend and, eat all those leftovers. Live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. See you next time.